Okay, so today we're going to be talking about paddle strokes, and I'm just going to cover some basic ones. Certainly not all that are available, but just some of the basic ones you'll need. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get into a stroke that is best when you are standing still and you're not moving anywhere, and it's to kind of get you started. And it's called a C stroke. And what a C stroke is it's quite literally the shape of a C. So we're going to start out there. We're going to pull in, so it pulls the bow to the port side, and then we do a power stroke, and then we end it with a J stroke. So it really covers the capital letter C. So it looks like this. All right, so that's the C stroke. The next one is basically part of that stroke, which is once you get going, you are doing the J stroke. Now, just about everybody knows what a J stroke is. And it's a power stroke. It looks like this, power stroke, and then you twist the power side of the blade out. All right, we'll do that again. Straight, power stroke, and then twist out. All right, so your thumb on your grip hand goes down at the end of the stroke. Power stroke and down. Okay, so that's your C stroke and your J stroke. Those are kind of basic strokes for starting and then maintaining your course. All right, so another stroke is called a pitch stroke, and it's pretty much the same as a J stroke or just a power stroke like this, but the leading edge, the inside edge of the paddle can be tilted sort of leading, so towards the canoe. And what that does is it kind of corrects the canoe. So if I'm paddling just like this, I'm turning to the right, or the opposite side that I'm paddling on, which is in this case the starboard side. I'm turning that way. Now the wind is kind of pushing me, so I'm not really, but anyway, that's what normally happens. So you can't normally paddle like this. Because you're going to turn, right? Which I am doing now, turning into the wind. But if you do a pitch stroke, instead of this, you're doing this, right? Instead of this, it's this. So you're actually turning the inside of your paddle blade, the close edge, towards the canoe. And that will help, that'll be a corrective stroke, which can sometimes be awkward to paddle because you might be, hitting the gunnel, right? So you got to just do it very carefully. But anyways, that is called a pitch stroke, and it's sort of a perpetually corrective stroke. All right, so another kind of stroke you can use is called a Goon Stroke, and not really sure why they call it that, but it just is the name they give it. And what that is it's similar to a J stroke. It's a corrective stroke, and all you're doing in this case is you're doing the power stroke, and then instead of doing the J like this, where the power side of the paddle tilts out, instead it's exactly the opposite. So it's a power stroke, and then your paddle just stays, your non-power side of the paddle stays out. So in other words, your grip handle, your thumb, does not go down like this on a J stroke, but it stays up. So here's the Goon Stroke. Okay, so that's also a corrective stroke. Another couple of strokes which are they go hand in hand. One is called a draw and one is a pry. And a draw just moves your area where you're sitting in the canoe closer just to the direction you're drawing. So it's basically just this. You reach out and you pull. Okay? That's a draw. Reach out, pull towards the canoe. And the opposite to that is a pry stroke. And you got to be careful on this one. It can be dangerous and it can be tippy, but it's the opposite. You start right beside the gunnel and push outwards like this. That's a pry. So again, it's just meant to move you around and to keep you where you want to go. They're all meant to move the canoe around or to maintain a course. There's another thing you'll want to know, which is not exactly a stroke, but it is a technique, and it's a kind of a stabilizing technique, and it's simply called a brace. So it's not a stroke, but what it is you would put your paddle against the gunnel and hold it with your hand, and just put the paddle in the water. Probably I would do the leading edge kind of up a little bit, if that's the way you're going, and that now, if you rock back and forth, it's not as easy to rock back and forth when you have your blade fully immersed or 3/4 of the way in the water and not moving. That becomes a bracing kind of technique. Not so much a stroke, but a technique. All right, so here's another stroke. It's called a sweep stroke, and that's exactly what you're doing. The paddle goes way out and you sweep across. And what that does is it quickly turns your canoe away from the paddling side. So in this case, I'm paddling on the port side, which is the left side, and my canoe is turning quickly towards the starboard side, or in the direction of right. Okay, so that's a sweep stroke. So you want to do that, and you can do that front and back. A reverse sweep does the same thing. It quickly turns your canoe, in this case, to the left or to the port side. All right, one other stroke you want to maybe know about, if not use it daily, is the Indian stroke. And I'm not sure why they call it that, but it is a very quiet stroke, and it's basically the same as a J stroke, except on the way back, you keep your paddle in the water and close to the gunnel. And that, when you keep it in the water and you go back to the beginning of your stroke for another power stroke, that can be used correctively as well. So here's what it looks like, an Indian stroke. Power stroke, kind of like a J stroke a little bit, and then you leave the paddle in the water and then you do it again. So while you're going back, you can correct the course of the canoe, and then again. And again. All right, so that's the Indian stroke. But if I tell you the Indian stroke, you got to know the next stroke that is very closely related, and that's called the Canadian stroke. And it's very similar to the Indian stroke, except when your paddle is returning to the power stroke again, it stays a bit higher in the water. So it looks like this. And again, it's a very quiet stroke, and so you know, it's often used if you're sneaking up on a wildlife or something like that, so you don't even hear the dripping of water from your paddle. It minimizes that. So guys, those are some of the basic strokes. There's a whole lot more, but that's it for this tutorial. Okay, thanks for joining us for that video. That was just a quick little tutorial on a couple of different basic paddle strokes you might be able to use on your next trip. Guys, if you like that, please do give me a like and subscribe if you care to. If not, I'm still going to make videos for you guys to stop by and check out every now and then. The next one I'm doing is how to paddle with a bent shaft paddle, how to paddle properly. All right, guys, check that one out, coming out very soon. And until then, guys, get out there, enjoy God's creation, and keep on looking up.